In the prior video, we created our first map here, and now we're going to actually use that map on a file that we receive. So I've created on the disk two directories again called map demo in, map demo out, and we're going to use those as we define our receive and send ports. So I'm trying to keep each of these demos basically separate from prior demos we've done. So I'm going to go to the purchase order application, and I need to create a receive port one way, and we'll call this receive map demo. Of course it's input because it's a receive. And receive location, I need to define a similar name, receive location map demo in. This again will be a flat file. There's my directory name. It will be XML that we're dropping. The pipeline needs to be XML, otherwise it won't know what the schema is in order to map it. Okay, and then this is the first time you've seen this, is we're going to pick here inbound maps. Now right now if I click here, you don't see any maps because I have not yet deployed it. So I'm going to have to hit OK here, go back to my Visual Studio, and I need to redeploy my solution now. So now my solution will not only have two schema projects, it will also have a map project. And this map name will be deployed to the BizTalk database, and the assembly will be deployed to the GAC, Global Assembly Cache. So now if I come here and refresh, and then I go back to the receive port, notice actually that maps are on the receive port, not the receive location. So we go to the receive port, look for demo map in, go to inbound maps, and okay, we still don't see it. Well, I think that's because we didn't pick our, we still don't have a source document. So there was some issue with my deploy, it looks like. It says it deployed. When you go to BizTalk Explorer, I need to add my proper name here. I've renamed my computer a while back, and this makes this a little bit of a pain till I fix it. You never see maps over here. You see orchestrations, you see assemblies. So if I hit refresh here, I think I know the problem. Well, obviously it couldn't have deployed. There's two reasons. It didn't deploy my maps, is basically what happened here. Remember, on my solution there is an option on properties where you actually tell it which files you want to deploy and which ones you don't. And so right here the little checkbox is not checked by deploy the maps. So that's the first issue. The second issue is if I try to deploy it, I need to have a strong name file. So we got to go back to assembly, click the assembly key file, and remember in the prior video when we first made our schema, we created this one called videos strong name key file. The next thing I want to do is make sure I have the right application name. So I'm going to go to one of my other projects, and I'm going to copy the application name just so I don't misspell it here. So here, back to the maps, deployment, application name, and paste purchase order app. And at that point I'll deploy it again. And I'm waiting on it to finish. This time I'll go verify that the PO Maps was actually deployed. So go back over here, click refresh, go to the assemblies, and now we see PO Maps is there. So now we go back here. This still won't appear until we refresh, right? So we have to cancel out, come here and right click refresh. Then we go back to the receive port, back to receive map demo in, back to inbound maps, and now you get a list of all your maps. So you'll also see all the possible documents. So we should just be able to click here on the map, and then it'll fill in the other fields. Now in a future video we'll show you you can actually have 5, 10, 20 maps here all in the same receive port. So after it receives the file from the receive location, usually then you'll have an XML pipeline, and then the pipeline will tell it what type of file it is. And then what it does is it looks through all these source documents and says, if you find a document that has this this matching schema, then I want you to run this map on it, and I want you to convert it into this type of schema. So we're going to save that. And we need to restart our host, as always, after we do a deploy. Okay, while that's happening, we'll go here to map demo in, and the trick now is finding the right test file. So we're going to go to PO schemas, and the test file I believe is this one. So I'm going to copy it over. Oh, by the way, I forgot to set up the send port. So, and it looks like I forgot to turn on the receive as well. So if we go to the receive location, you see it's disabled, which is actually probably good for the moment because I haven't set up my send port yet. So here we'll make a new send port, and we'll call it demo map out. That will also be a file. We need to get the file name here, except change the word out, and we'll call this map demo along with the message ID. We need to make this probably XML. I don't think we need to set any other options here, so we can start that. Oh, we need to do a filter, of course, sorry. So we need to come to filters and say I want to look at BT message type. Now the question is here, what kind of message are we looking for? Are we looking for the standard PO or the W3org PO? So what we're expecting to happen is that the file will get translated, and I'll draw a Visio diagram of this for you shortly. The file will be translated, and at this point we're actually looking for this file on the right, not this file on the left. Even when you're in the map, you can actually click on these different fields, and you can see it pulls in some of the schema attributes. So what I need here is I need the namespace, copy, stick here along with the pound sign, and then we need the root element name, STD purchase order, and we paste it there. So again, after I hit enter on that line, it's easier to read down here. You see BT message type equals HTTP PO schemas standard purchase order pound sign. So again, everything to the left of the pound sign is the namespace. Everything to the right of the pound sign is the root element name. Okay, so we save that, and now we go to receive location. Our file is still sitting there because the receive location was disabled. So let's make sure, first of all, our send port is started, and now we'll just enable our receive location. And we go back here, in just a second or so the file has been picked up, and we'll go to hat in a second, but here's our output directory. Before I go to hat, let me just show you the results. And notice it is a standard purchase order. And just to recap for you, the file we actually dropped was a purchase order W3org. And so this is supposed to go to John Doe 456 Warehouse Boulevard. And here is bill to and ship to. So there's the ship to is John Doe Corporation. You know, it looks like I may have mapped his addresses backwards. I may have mapped his ship to his bill to, which would have been a bad thing to do. So if we go look at my map here, no, I've got PO bill to data, PO ship to data. But yet it looks backwards here. We also see all our PO items here, and this one had no comment, but it did have a comment, whereas this one didn't even have a comment. Okay, my ship to bill to was actually correct based on the data I gave it. I think when I typed in my data, I meant for Warehouse Boulevard to actually be the shipping address, so I actually put the data in backwards in my input file. So the map actually did map the data correctly. And you can see here's my two parts that I'm ordering, ABC123 Christmas lights, and there's ABC123 Christmas lights, and here's ABC456 plastic life-size reindeer, and that's the product we have there. So I would say our map is successful. So this is the diagram we looked at in the prior videos where we had a pipeline and then a receive port, and then we showed the data going to the message database. But actually, see, now to be more accurate, there's another step right here, and that is the data gets mapped I say run any maps because they're optional, and then we'll copy this little line over here. Then it goes into the message box database. Okay, so our file came in, we dropped XML in this case, so switch this back to XML. Actually, it doesn't matter what type of file we pick because by the time it goes through the pipeline, it now will be XML. And then XSLT, of course, maps run with XML in and XML out. So the pipeline has to convert the file to XML. We receive it, it then maps it. It matches all the maps to the processable root element names here and the namespaces. It runs any maps that fit, and then it continues on and throws that message into the message box database, and then again we received it with a send port and sent it on out over here. We subscribed to it with a send port, and then we wrote it to the disk file. So that's basically our updated diagram, and in future demos we'll show you can actually even map the data here when it goes out. So just to recap what we did, we went to Visual Studio, we created a new project called PO Maps. We then added a reference to the other project that has our schemas in it. We then did a right-click add, and we added a map to this PO Maps project. The map itself, then, we added the source schema, the destination schema, and then we dragged and dropped various fields and used functoids to concatenate or to initialize fields that we didn't have over here. And then also we used a functoid to set the current date and time. We then did a validate of our map and a test of our map using real data. At that point, we were ready to test through the BizTalk message-based routing. So we went to BizTalk admin. Then we deployed our solution. So we deployed our solution. Then we went to BizTalk admin. We created a receive location and receive port and a send port called demo map out for the send port and demo map in for the input port or the receive port. And in the demo map in, we went to inbound maps and we selected from a list here. We only have one map deployed, so the list was pretty easy. You can imagine in a production system here you might actually have 200 maps to choose from, and then it gets a little pickier on how you do it. And then we actually dropped our file in, and it ran and it mapped and it wrote it to our output directory. And once we were in our output directory here, we looked at the file, and it was in the format of the standard purchase order, whereas we had dropped in a file in the format of the purchase order W3 org. So that concludes this introduction into mapping, and in future videos we'll show you more advanced mapping techniques.